Which one of the M's do you think could be the most impacted or they could work on right now?
Oh, I love that question because the answer is my favorite one of the M's. So just a reminder, it's mindset, mentoring, management, and marketing.
Welcome everyone to the Vibrant Publishers podcast. We've got a very interesting guest today, Jamie Turner, who is an internationally recognized speaker, consultant, and Emory University lecturer who helps leaders sharpen their mindset, branding, and performance. He's been featured on CNN and HLN and profiled in the Wall Street Journal, Forbes, and CNBC, and also been named a top 10 speaker by Career Addict and Socialnomics. He founded Unspoken and he delivered keynote presentations for companies like Coca-Cola, Verizon, and Microsoft. It's great to have you on the podcast, Jamie.
It is great to be here. I'm looking forward to catching up with you and talking about how to be better.
Awesome. So what has struck me most about this book is that it's not really written from theory, but from a lived experience. You open the book with a heartbreaking realization at your late wife's hospital bed that you were physically there for 23 years, but never truly present. So why do you think presence is the ultimate competitive advantage for a modern leader?
Yeah, it was a very difficult moment. And after she passed away for several years, I did not really address it publicly because I have a presence and I just didn't want to talk about it in a way that I just wasn't ready to talk about it. But then with the book, I thought, it's a great way to help people understand the journey that we're all on. And quite frankly, life is challenging and it's not a walk in the park. It's a climbing up a mountain. And so what she basically said was, hey, you provided for us. You were a good husband in a lot of ways, but you were never there. And that just was like a knife going through my heart. And so I thought, well, how do I leverage that? How do I take the challenge that I just received, the difficult message that I received from my late wife, and then turn that into something that is good for myself and for others? So I started working on myself a lot and built up a framework and a platform on how to become better, starting with mindset. We all know what you think turns into your actions, and your actions turn into the outcomes in your life. Of course, Buddha was one of the first people to talk about that. Then the second thing is mentoring. How do you engage one-on-one with other people? The third is management. How do you manage yourself so that you are present and things like that? And then the fourth is marketing. How do you present yourself to the world around you? What's interesting, just to put a kind of a capstone on top of everything I just said, is I've been meditating for over 50 years. And so it's a long time, and that's 50, not 15, 15, it's 50 years. And part of that helps me be present. It didn't work in terms of my marriage to my late wife, but one of the things I talk about in the book is how to use meditation as a way to focus your mind, change your actions so that you can change the outcomes in your life.
That's right. Wow, you've been meditating for 50 years. Can you share something about that? What has been the experience like, and how has maybe that has also affected, or I would not say affected, but impacted the books that you've come up with, especially Better?
Yeah, it has, definitely. I'm a huge proponent. The story is, I was 13 or 14 years old. My older siblings were getting involved in drugs in the United States. Sadly, that sometimes happens. Nothing too serious, but like marijuana, things like that. And I thought to myself, and it wasn't working for them. They were rebellious and all that sort of stuff. And I thought, I don't want to do that. I mean, that just seems like a weird way to go through your teen years. And I thought, well, what are they trying to do? And I realized what they were trying to do was change their mind, introduce a chemical, marijuana, that changed their mind. And I thought, well, I'm okay with changing my mind. I'm not okay with taking sort of a drug in order to do that. What can I do? At that time, the Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, who you're probably familiar with, was coming through the United States, and he was talking about transcendental meditation. And I thought, wow, I'm going to give that a shot. I went to my parents. My parents said, yeah, let's all go learn how to do transcendental meditation. So we went down, did the group setting, learned how to meditate, and I started then. What's interesting is it's been part of my life ever since then. I've been meditating, and I've used different forms of meditation. I have worked with Sadhguru. You're probably familiar with Sadhguru. I did some work with Isha in the United States and helped launch them in the United States. Got to sit and meet with Sadhguru, great guy, and then now work with through an organization called Heartfulness, which has a guru named Daji who goes around and does a lot of the same thing. So the Indian culture, the Indian way of life, the Indian spiritual, sort of thinking has been part of my life since I was 13, and I've benefited from it because I believe I'm more calm, less stressed, and more focused because of meditation. So I talk about it a lot to a lot of different people.
Moving on to the next topic, what I wanted to know was, do you think most high performance recognize this gap, which is like being successful on paper but emotionally absent, or does it take like a crisis to wake them up?
Yeah, hopefully it does not take a crisis. For me, it did. And by the way, I'm still a work in progress. I have a new person in my life. Her name's Shannon, and I believe that she is in my life to help me understand and work on being present. So I am still always, it's just the nature of who I am. I'm always looking over the next hill to see where am I going. And she keeps reminding me to bring it to be more present. And of course, my wonderful sister Ashley does the same thing, where she says, please learn how to be present and all that. And it can be a life changer, and it can be. But to answer your question, does it take a challenge? Hopefully not. Hopefully reading the book will help people go, okay, what can I do to be the best version of myself? Because that's really what the book is about, is how do I become the best version of myself? And so hopefully the book will be transformative for the people who read it, or an experience will be transformative. But it's also important to know we're never finished. We're on our deathbed, we're still learning how to be a better human, how to be more present, how to be more loving, how to be more giving. And so it's a journey that never stops. And it's what part of being human is all about.
That's right. Sounds good. So you, at the start, you mentioned the 4 M's, and what I wanted to know was, for people listening and who feel burnt out or drained or stressed out, which one of the M's do you think could be the most impacted, or they could work on right now?
Oh, I love that question, because the answer is my favorite one of the M's. So just a reminder, it's mindset, mentoring, management, and marketing. And mindset is the first one I talk about in the book, and it's literally the most important one. You have to lay the foundation for your future by changing the way you think about the world around you. And so one of the things that I talk about is, what is your first line of code? And what that means is, if you think of a software program has 1 million lines of software code in it. If the first line of software code is broken, then the rest of the software can't work, because the computer goes into the first line of code, it's broken, and it stops right there. So as a human, we ask, what is our first line of code? And that's the messages that we have believed about ourselves, some of which are not right. So if you grow up in a difficult surrounding and your parents were mean to you and they told you you would never amount to anything, then that's what gets in your brain. And that's your first line of code. I'm never going to amount to anything, because at a young age, your parents talk to you about that. So what we try to do as humans and as successful people is to rewrite that first line of code, to go in and figure out ways to have that code rewritten. And I have a technique that I write about in the book, and it's based on something called EFT, which is Emotional Freedom Technique. And it involves tapping on your body as a way to rewire the neural pathways in your brain. So the neural pathways in your brain get in a rut. You tell yourself, I'm never going to amount to anything. And then consciously you say, I don't want to believe that about myself. How do I rewire that message in my brain? And so what you can do is what I do, this is an adapted version of EFT tapping, is I tap my collarbone and I rewire my brain by telling myself what it is I want to become. So in this particular case, we've talked about being present, and you might see me go around tapping my collarbone, which actually hits the neural pathways. It activates your nerve endings. And I go, be present, be present, be present. Or another thing to say is, I am present, I am present, I am present. And by doing that, you're rewiring the neural pathways in your brain so that you can have that messaging be the appropriate message for what you want to accomplish in life. So just to wrap that up, the 4 M's, the most important one is probably mindset. You are what you think. Buddha said that. Jesus said that. A lot of great spiritual leaders said that. You are what you think. So think the right thoughts. And if you need to change what your thoughts are, tap your collarbone and say out loud, I am, and then fill in the blank with what you want to become. And you're training your brain to understand that you are that thing. I am present. I am lovable. I am successful. I am hardworking. I am engaged with my family. Whatever it is, all of those things can be rewired in your brain so that you behave that way and actually have that outcome in your life.
That's right. So the first thing to work on is definitely mindset. But what I wanted to know was, do we not have to work on all 4 things together? Or is it fine that we first fix the mindset, then the other 3 M's? How does it work?
Yeah, it starts with mindset. That would be the very first thing you do, because it lays the foundation for all the other ones. So start with mindset, change the way you think, and then move through the other ones, which are basically mentoring is about how do I engage with people, management is how do I engage with larger groups of people, and then marketing is how do I present myself to the world around me. And by doing that, you're then able to do it. But the starting point really is mindset, and focus on that a lot in order to really fully embrace and execute the other 3.
That's right. And you've also mentioned that most high achievers, they're trying to solve 21st century problems with a 20th century mindset. I mean, what is the biggest old school habit that you think is the leaders of today are using to self-sabotage themselves, and why do you think what I said is the case right now?
Yeah, I think as we progress as a planet, we are starting to become more and more open to new ideas that end up that initially people are skeptical about, they don't believe, and then over time they start to realize they are true. So let me talk about 2 things that happened in the United States culturally. When I was younger, chiropractic care, which is where people manipulate your spine in order to make it aligned, was thought of as not a real thing. And then over time, they started realizing, oh, this actually kind of works. And so the American population started embracing chiropractic care. In the same sense, acupuncture was kind of viewed as sort of voodoo medicine meaning medicine that isn't real. And then now we realize, oh no, acupuncture actually does work. So there are these things that as time goes on, people start embracing because they see that it works. The reason I bring that up is the most progressive thinking about energy in our world today is that we actually have energy that emanates from our body. And I'll explain that in scientific terms because this is real stuff. We talked about what you think being important. Part of the reason what you think is important is thoughts create emotions. So happiness, sadness, joy, love. Emotions create neurotransmitters. A neurotransmitter is a hormone in your body. So dopamine or adrenaline, the things that make you feel excited or energized, dopamine, adrenaline, other things. Those neurotransmitters have an electromagnetic charge to them. So that means just like a compass kind of goes like that and sees where the north is, these hormones have an electromagnetic charge. So where I'm going, I'm almost done because I know I'm covering a lot of ground here, but we as humans can feel electromagnetic energy from other people. And what I mean by that is we know that birds migrate by sensing the electromagnetic charge of the earth. And we also have studies that show that humans can sense electromagnetic energy. So if we know that, then when somebody walks into a room and we feel their energy, like we feel them brighten up a room, or they take the energy out of a room and we feel that, that's a very real thing. That's not what we call in the United States woo-woo, which means it's not real. This is very real, but people are just now understanding all of that, and people are just now embracing it. People in the United States, anyway. I know in India and other parts of the world, they've understood this for a lot longer than we have in the United States. So the bottom line, just to sum it up, is humans emanate electromagnetic energy. We have science that shows that humans can feel that energy. And so when somebody walks in a room and you feel their energy, that's a very real thing. It's not made up. And so if you project good energy, you're going to get good energy back from the people around you because they will pick up on it. So that's the key message there, one of the key messages from the book.
Perfect. So solve your 21st century problems with the 21st century book, Better, which is coming out soon, April 3rd, 2026. I had to plug in the book at this moment because it called for it. So great answer. And you mentioned a very valid point. Moving on, I want to ask you about unspoken rules of leadership. Your book mentions that. What is one rule that nobody tells you in MBA school, but that makes or breaks a career? Is what I'd like to know from you.
Oh, I love that. I love that question. Yeah. The unspoken rules came about as a result of a young person I was mentoring. And I told them, he said, hey, I want to learn how to work well in the corporate world, but I don't have the training. And I said, well, you can read a lot of books, but there are also these unspoken rules. And those are the kinds of things that people won't talk about, but they're true. And he said, well, give me an example of one. And I said, well, for example, you're in a corporate world right now. The clothes you wear are not really fitting in with the group here. So maybe if you adjust your outfit, that will help you fit in. Now I'm a big fan of expressing yourself through your own style of clothing. I'm not saying you have to do that. I was just trying to explain to him that he looked disheveled and looked like he wasn't dressed well and that he didn't care about himself. And I was trying to say, present yourself better so that you come across the way that you want to. So that's one of the unspoken rules. The other is to understand that, like we talked about, that you actually output energy And if your energy is negative, people are going to pick up on that and they're going to give you negative energy back. So that's another unspoken rule, which is make sure the energy you're putting out is positive and you'll get positive energy back.
Awesome. And coming to the end of the podcast, my last question, and I trust me, I really don't want that this podcast ends because it's filled with insights. But coming to my last question, which is, what do you personally hope this book gives to people, just beyond, not just career, but beyond career success?
Yeah, that gets to the heart and soul of who each one of us is as a human being. So every individual on the planet has something that I talk about in the book called your core essence. Your core essence is, what are you really about at the deepest part of you? What are you really about? And what I found for me is that at my essence, and in the book, it gives you sort of a cheat sheet to pick some things. But in my essence, it's love, and love manifests itself in the form of helping others. So when I help other people, and I've always been a teacher, even though it's my profession now, even when I was younger, I loved teaching people things. As I grew older, I realized when I'm teaching people something, really what I'm saying is I love you. And that helps me love myself, and this is good for both of us. And so at my core, I'm about love. I manifest that through teaching, and then the outcome is books like we have Better, a guidebook to a new and improved you, which helps people go out and learn those tools in order to figure out what their core essence is, so that they can then use it for themselves and for others.
Awesome. Well, Jamie, it was great having you on the podcast, and I can't wait to have you on the podcast again. And thank you so much for sharing your insights and helping us get better.
Thank you. Glad to see you. Take care.